How goes it out there? It was snowing here, and they're talking about giving us at least a couple of inches, which would be great. There's not been enough snow to shovel over here, and it's like that's my outside occupation in the wintertime. Um, and what snow has accumulated a little at a time, it's not been good packing, so I can't even make anything out of it. Kind of a sad winter so far. I'm not saying that I want any of the bad weather that has been going south of us, or certainly not any of the unexpected. I mean, those poor people in Georgia and places in Texas that just don't get snow. How do you handle snow? Your roads aren't even contoured for snow and ice. But this is number 27 of the Free for All Friday. We're going to try this. We welcome everybody. And we're trying to celebrate both growing and cultivate better, more problem solving in gardens. Um, I am not sure Steve's here yet, so I shouldn't officially be starting. But this week we've heard from a couple of people, and in the previous month or so, we heard from some people about the Free for All Friday. So they said, "Well, we've been coming, and we have mixed reports so far." People say, "Oh, some of the people have said I really like your Free for All Friday. Thank you for doing that. I've learned a lot of stuff." Others have said, "I really like it better when you give me a webinar with one big topic to look at rather than all the different shotgun crazy combinations of things that happen on Free for All Friday." It's one of the reasons we called it Free for All is because we knew that was going to happen, kind of like at the end of any talk, any presentation Steve and I give to any of hundreds of different groups we've talked to. When we get to the end and say, and if there's time for questions and people ask questions, once we get past the inevitable, why doesn't my hydrangea bloom question, or how do I prune my hydrangea question, that's always one we've got to get past. Then it just goes all over the place. You go from talking to somebody about fertilizer over there, talking to somebody about a rabbits in their garden over there. I mean, it just goes back and forth and all around. So any input that you've got about that, you'll help Steve and me as we look at whether or not we can keep doing these, keep doing these, what changes we should make to them as we do them. It is the time of year we brought in plants from outside and they were vigorously growing outside. They may now be responding with paler leaves to less intense light, and they might be showing some problems with nutrient deficiencies as they start, as they no longer have rainwater and they no longer have that migration of moist soil and stuff in the soil through pots into if they were outside. So you might want to take a look at your plants. More people tend to have problems in January and February with mites, scale insect, whatever. But if you've been looking in January as they begin making that transition and that slide down into the low energy performance that they have because they've been all of December and part of November in too low a light, they go sliding downhill. And if you wait till February, it's too late. But if you take a look at them now, you might find that there's a little bit of problem with some scale. There might be a little bit of leaf spot. There might be whatever that you've been dealing with. Washing the plants off good is a good idea. And not giving them any heavy duty fertilizer, but one of the slow release fish emulsions or liquid seaweed, or just one of those things so that there's some replacement going on of nutrients that might have been over taken out in too great numbers in the soil. Not sure.
Michelle's got a hand raised.
Oh, Michelle, what's up?
Hi, I'd like to know if I can put in the Michigan Beekeepers Association plug on the chat for the trees that we're selling.
Certainly you can put that into the chat. That is a deal. It has been every time you guys have gotten trees. I look and go, you're selling those trees for how little money? Yeah. So
Yeah, well, they're 2 to 4 inch. What do you call those?
caliper, the trunk is 2 to 4 inches this time.
Oh gosh, no.
Oh,
Height is 2 to 4 inches. They're
that's better.
they're whips. No, that's not a whip. But
Rooted cuttings.
yeah, they're bare roots, but
Yeah.
they're not big enough to be
cuttings.
called trees. They're called
Whips.
no, whips are smaller. 2 to 4.
Okay.
We got whatever it's called.
Whatever
Anyway,
it's called. Yes, you can definitely put that plug in the chat, and
okay.
and
That's
we'll watch for it for a little bit later too.
Okay.
But I,
Because we're going to sell them from until the end of March.
oh, so you're gonna take all your orders ahead of time then?
Oh, yeah. And
Okay.
they have to be paid ahead of time. And they have to tell us we want them, where they're going to pick them up. Trying to
That's
correct problems from last year.
that's exactly what Relief of Michigan ended up doing with their big tree sales. And I mean, they were selling the big 2 to 4 inch caliper trees. That's exactly what they would do. Take the orders first and take the money, have you pick one of several places, several yards where the trees would be left, and you had X day, 2 days to come and pick them up. So you're following in well trod, and really it worked very smoothly. Footsteps.
Right.
Still several minutes before we're officially supposed to start, and we hate to start where somebody might say, "Cal, I got there and you were already going." It feels no, just rude, and gardeners shouldn't be rude. Well,
We try not to.
I was gonna say gardeners can be rude to in certain situations and with certain people. I think gardeners can be rude, definitely.
You could be rude with some plants too.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm sure that there are plants that if they could think of a way to do it would get me when I go out there. Just like me looking around for, well, the 2 kinds of bindweed that we have, just like me looking for the bindweed, they're probably looking for me. Let's see, where is she now? What can
Yeah.
I trip her with something?
What can we do to make her life harder?
Oh, yeah. Let's quit coming up over here where we've been coming up for 2 years. Let's move 2 feet down there and come up behind that plant where she won't notice us. Um, that is the way that it goes.
Michelle says, I think weeds have an amazing ability to hide in plants that are lookalikes. For
Yeah,
sure.
that's not only a joke we can bandy between ourselves, but that is a true thing that plants have evolved to grow near plants that they have mimicked. Bachelor button, the long-leafed uh, centaurea, grows in cornfields and is called cornflower for the fact that it can hide so well. It's
Huh.
called strawberry. It grows in strawberry and looks like strawberry potentilla. It is a known fact that hiding in something you look like can keep you away from some predators, especially herbaceous herbivores.
Okay, hello and welcome to Free for All Friday. All gardeners are welcome. Come celebrate growing and cultivate problem solving.
This is our 27th run here doing these Free-for-All Fridays. It's January 10th. We're coming to you from gardenatoc.org. I'm Janet McConovich.
And I'm Stephen Nicola.
And that's kind of what we've been up to lately. Everybody, we took some holiday time off, and other than a webinar with question and answer period that we did last week, we haven't been with the group for a while. So I hope your holidays were good. Ours were certainly fun. They almost always are a blast.
Yeah.
You know about our website. We are hoping that you're using and telling other people that the information is there, because just like you may have heard if you were with us for our indoor gardening webinar just 2 weeks ago, the beginning of December, you heard that many of the people that are younger than we are, if we happen to be 20 and 30-year gardeners, many of those people are getting their information from Reddit and from Instagram and from other kinds of social things. And the easier they are to find, and the more you tell people here's something, the more that they'll take little screenshots and share them around. So if you see particularly good information on our website, please share it. Take a picture of the screen, post it on your own particular social media, and maybe we'll get a few more people following the footsteps of a community like this, pooling their information so that not everybody has to keep learning the same things over and over and over again between different gardeners. We feel privileged to have been doing this for as long as we've been doing it. We've also been back to doing domestic chores. I should be both cleaning and cooking, but I've been sorting out closets, which I consider cleaning. And this was a butternut squash soup that I made that really tasted very good. And I should have talked to some other cooks first, I went online to find out how the heck to cut up a butternut squash. These things are so hard. And the guy that showed me how to do it, yeah, it was hard, but quite possible to do. So I did it that way and found out afterwards by talking to people, no, 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 roast it till it's soft and then put it in your soup. That's why we want to talk to each other about gardens, save other people that same effort. And it's that kind of time of year for just kind of lazing around. Even the dogs just give up on us and climb up on our bed. And one of the reasons I'm cleaning closets rather than cleaning the floor, you're looking at a stuffed animal toy being destuffed after its squeaker was taken out of it. And you're not looking at shadow or dirt here. You're looking at, why are these dogs shedding already? It's not even middle of January. Normally they begin to shed when the days start getting longer, but every place they lay down, black hair is getting smushed. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go work in the closets and not look at this. That's what's been going on in our house. Steve's been looking the other way. Okay, we'll get into what we're doing in the garden though. Let's see. We'll start with something that I was very glad to get an answer to today and wasn't sure I was going to. If you haven't heard the term dangerous tree before, it is a technical specific term. And it refers to trees that, for reasons that can be seen by someone who knows how trees grow, it's a threat. It's going to drop branches or it's going to topple over, something is going to happen. It's called a dangerous tree. And if you know one on public land, sometimes you might have trouble getting somebody to do something about it. And we learned today because we were asked by Sue, no, Karen. Karen asked about how she could get some help for someone with a bad tree like that. So we put the word out to some of the people we know. Linda Jones is president. I always forget what people's specific titles are, of Relief of Michigan, one of the arborists organization that was formed in order to get more trees planted in Michigan, to teach more people about planting trees, etc. The people that are there are all certified, or I think most of them are certified arborists, but they're also volunteers in the organization.
Whoops.
And we called Linda Jones, the president. We also called Marvin Petway, who's a friend of ours and sometimes is here on our webinars and Fridays. If you see Marvin, it was also very active as an arborist in Relief of Michigan, but he also was in charge, I don't know for how many years, of the University of Michigan landscape. I mean, we're talking the campus, all of that stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
Well, I called both those two, and who called back first was Marv, to say that if you have a tree like this, because Karen was sent in, she said, this tree is in front of my brother's house. It's in the park strip. And it's got a big crack in the trunk that's 4 inches deep there. And if you move up, it's 3 inches deep. I mean, it's a deep crack in a big tree. And the tree has dropped a branch on a car on the street and damaged it. It's also dropped a branch onto the house and damaged the porch railing fence. She said, so, you told us, or at one point or another, we've been talking about things and said, call the city arborist and have them look at the tree. She said, well, I called the city, they don't have an arborist. And they said, we're just going to have to handle it. Well, that's not right. This is a tree on public property. That strip between the sidewalk and the street is easement. It's not yours, even though you have to keep it mowed and all the rest of that stuff. The trees on it are publicly owned trees, and the community has a liability for anything that might happen with those trees. So Marvin said, look, this happens sometimes. For instance, Wyandotte, where this tree is, doesn't have an arborist. Some communities don't fund an arborist, don't want to fund an arborist, or haven't been told that it's a good idea. But they all have somebody, Marv says, somebody in the city is responsible for the trees on public lands. And what you need to do is call your Department of Public Services and tell them you have a tree that has already done damage to property. But that's an important phrase.
Already
done damage to property. That's an important phrase. And that you want to work with someone at the city to get the tree taken care of properly. And you can say, and I talked to my insurance company or I talked to my lawyer, either of those work, and they said that I should make sure I'm getting in touch with someone in the city. He said, you will then get in touch with someone in the city. Karen, who asked, we sent an email with the telephone number and the name of the person she's looking for in that city. No reason for us to put that out to everybody in the world. The point is that there is someone, Marv, who gave us the information, has been over 40 years dealing with cities, trees, people,
Mhm.
other arborists, and he's giving you a straight scoop there. A good place to start. Questions about any of that? So no questions about any of that. Oh, there is a reliably blooming, long blooming pot plant, house plant, florist, color gift plant called kalanchoe. A lot of people say kalencho. Go right ahead, murder the name. Kalanchoe is so much more poetic. It's kalanchoe, and we heard from Sue that hers, that has always bloomed about this time of year, is not blooming this year. And she wants to know, asking the plant, what's your problem? That's a kalanchoe, one of the many kinds of kalanchoe.
Many. Yep.
And she says it's growing new leaves. It looks healthy. But it's not blooming. And that's entirely understandable. It is looking beautiful. It's growing wonderfully. There's kalanchoe blooming in full bloom in the background, orange and coral colored, and in the foreground, just coming into bloom. And they are incredible. They'll stay in bloom for 6 months, sometimes longer than that. Just keep making more flowers. But to make that happen, and you do need to have the growing conditions right. And you may have inadvertently changed the growing condition that you didn't know was right, because these are pretty easy to do. Ball Red Book is the textbook for the greenhouse growers on curriculum. And we have one because we love information like that.
Yep.
And when you look up something like kalanchoe, they will tell you different types that are good to grow in pots and how to start them and how long it takes them to get big, and includes the notes like most of the cultivars of kalanchoe require 5 weeks of short days to initiate flower, and that means 14 hours of darkness 7 days a week. Now you've heard about poinsettias, that people think they have to be shut in a closet. They don't have to be shut in a closet. In fact, they'll die if they're shut in a closet for 4 weeks. They have to have a long night, 14 hours, put them to bed at 5 o'clock at night, wake them up at 7 o'clock the next morning. If they don't have a night that long, then the day is too long and they don't get the cue to start making flowers. Kalanchoes are easy plants because they usually get themselves set up by themselves in fall as the days get shorter. So if you've got them near a window and you have them in that same place, they're probably going to start back blooming again. But if you put the kalanchoe out or you move it around, and you inadvertently change it, so now the light from the neighbor's security light is on at night and breaking the darkness for that plant through your window, or maybe you you moved it into the TV room because you know it's going to be so beautiful once it starts blooming again, but people stay up late watching TV, and that's enough light to break the darkness too. So you either put a box over it every night and take it off, or put it in a closet every night and take it out, but put it someplace where it's going to get darkness.
Dark time.
And once you give it, and it might only need 3 more weeks of long nights, 3 weeks of doing this. It'll tell you when it starts making flower buds. But the nice thing about kalanchoe is you haven't lost any time. It's going to start after you give it long nights. So, but you want to do that before the days start getting longer and make it harder. So, there's also, you want to keep the night temperature between 60 and 70 degrees when you're doing this. And some people, when they cover something, especially if it's in the kitchen and it's near a heat vent or whatever, you might trap too much heat underneath
Too
there.
much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, Michelle is asking, are berries poisonous?
Berries they are toxic. How toxic are they? Do we want to find out how toxic they are?
I don't know.
Well, why don't we talk about birds, and then I will have a chance to do that. This is what I really wanted to talk about.
Winter is so important in visible bird time. We can tell when they're out there and see when they're out there. And one of the things they need food, water, and shelter. And our pond is now frozen. And we needed to get another water source out for them. So today Janet worked on putting out our little heated
It's like a little stock
little
pond
bird
heater.
bath water
And the things that I use, and you're going to want to make sure that you think, can we go backwards?
oh,
Whoop. Um, make sure that you put these guys level. So I
yeah.
got level, and I've got a couple of pieces of wood that I can break up and use as shims. Um, these heaters are going to evaporate water. They have to because it's
As
warm.
fast
That's the way it's
as-
going to go. But they're only an inch deep because you don't want to drown a bird. And so they can lose a lot of water pretty quickly if they're sitting at an angle, they're going to lose even more. So the hardest thing about it, and what takes the longest time for me, is getting it level. And then because ours has only a short cord,
That's as long as the cord is.
so I need to take that to an extension cord. And it's an outside rated extension cord, but I don't want that connection between those two cords sitting in snow. So after I plug it in, I'm going to wrap it in plastic and tape the ends of the plastic shut to make sure that it's not sitting in water.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that earlier. It got cold so fast, but I have been watching the birds land there on the frozen pond where they're used to getting water, and I feel like, oh, you poor guys, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So there's where it sits now. The pond, they come to the pond.
And then they
All the animals that come into our yard come to
hop
that
over
pond.
here. But because it is evaporating all the time, you do need to add water. Someone asked me, can I put it out? You can put it anywhere in the yard, but remember that at least once a day, you're going to have to walk out there
You
and
should
add
gotta
water
check
to
it. Check it and add water, and you may have to rinse it out. There may be stuff in there that you
Yeah.
don't want in there.
Ours accumulates calcium. So ours is placed near the pond. And fortunately, the pond I put for us to be able to see while we're brushing our teeth, because our bathroom is at ground. When we
Yeah.
look out the bathroom window, we're at ground level because we're in a bi-level. Steve put it
Right here.
right there, and the bird bath is right outside. So we can actually reach out the window with a spout
With the
water can
Yep.
and fill the water, but you need to put it someplace where you can do it. But they really appreciate the water. They are there all the time,
Yeah.
sitting at the edge, just dipping in. We live on a lake, so you'd think there'd be lots of water, but all throughout the year, we've just decided there's a lot of stuff in that lake, a lot of runoff from properties and
Fertilizers
a lot of
and et
residue
cetera,
of
et cetera.
chemicals. Yeah.
So and we
can't look at that.
well, we got with the water, there's also the issue of our windows.
And they always have been.
We have different ways of trying.
Yeah.
But
This was this week. I was cooking and I heard a bang. I in less than a minute, I was out picking up this goldfinch and going, oh, you poor thing. I convinced myself that I saw him breathing because when I was a kid, so we're talking 60 some years ago, I was out shoveling snow with my dad, probably being absolutely no help at all. I was little. I was hip high to him. And a bird hit the window and fell on the porch next to the window. And my dad picked it up in his left hand, looked at it, and dropped it into his side pocket. And a half an hour later, that bird flew out of his pocket and made me, for all my life, think my dad was magic.
Miracle.
Yep.
Miracle.
So I really hope that but he obviously broke his neck very quickly. So I know birds have been running into windows as long as people have been putting windows in houses. We do all we can. We have in every window that we can afford to not see out, we have our shutters pulled across the window.
So that they have.
So there's a 2-inch pattern on the window.
Yeah.
We have the stickers don't work, and Audubon
No, they haven't worked.
The stickers don't work.
No.
We could post.
We have them on some of the windows because we just kind of like them now.
We could post stuffed owls or hawks on the corner of each window on the outside, and then we would totally not have anything to look at our feeders. So we do our best, and that's all that we can do. And Steve, if you would tell us about
our feeder.
that.
This is Janet's and mine. It's not just mine. It's both of ours. It was our favorite type of feeder. It could hold 24 small birds on it. It's fed them sunflower hearts, finch mix, just small seed. But the squirrels If there's sunflower hearts in there, the squirrels are going to come after it. And we do not get as many birds if I put just the thistle out there, just the Niger. They really like that mix, and I like getting more birds. And I think it's less of a mess too with the Niger that's in there compared to just
Yeah,
straight
if it's just
Niger.
Niger, you end up with a asphalt hard layer below the feeder of shells that haven't seeds that's just been dropped.
So they chewed on it. So I tried to tape it up and then use a glue gun and try and glue it on, and they'll chew through that. And we have feeders, we have landing spots for all these birds. This is a feeder outside my office window. They use the fir, the juniper, the lilac, and the blue branch as staging areas to come to this feeder and other ones in this area. So every one of these shrubs are important, but we're losing the lilac.
It's had a problem since we've gotten in, and it's only gotten worse, and I've determined that it's because it's planted on top of plastic. So it's going to come out, and it will be the last thing I do in the winter because that is such an important bush.
And we're deciding what to put back in place. We're leaning towards an evergreen. Evergreens are very important in the winter.
Yeah.
For
Shelter is really important, and staging areas are part of shelter, not
Yeah.
just nests, but staging areas.
we'll probably take out this one, the bigger one of the lilacs.
I think I'm
Or
probably
is
going
it
to take them
smaller
both out.
first? Both,
I can
yeah.
barely right now see the branches behind it. There is a calacanthus
Calanthus
that will
in
be big
back.
enough to fill
Yeah,
that.
it's back there.
But it won't be as twiggy
It's not
right
the
away.
same.
It'll get big right away, but it won't be as twiggy. And evergreen would be nicer. So
Yeah.
sorry, Steve, for interrupting you.
That's okay. So then in the front yard, I have this is my office window and this is our living room window. So we could look out and I could see two hanging feeders on this pole. There it is. And then we have a jar with seed in it, the squirrel mix, I call it. It's got
I called it the platform feeder when we first made it.
And it is a platform feeder. You need platform feeders. You have birds that do not like to land on the tubular feeders or even on this feeder back in the back, the green one that has
A counterbalance.
the counterbalance. So if something too heavy gets on it, the gate shuts. Squirrels have not gotten into that except for
40 years.
Except for one little red squirrel figured out to hang his feet on the top and lean down and grab them.
And one chipmunk was very cute to watch, had figured out that if it jumped up, so it was not on the perch, then the perch would stay open until he landed again. So he would jump up, grab, and land. He was very cute to watch.
So this platform feeder is important because what's in there is sunflowers, striped in black, and safflower. And there's a lot of birds that eat safflower that are not perching birds. They like the platform better. And the squirrels will throw the safflower down out of the way. And they also will throw some seed. So we use these and we really like all of them, but mainly the squirrels are who empties this jar. And then, go back one. This hook right here is reserved for my bird buddy, and the squirrels
I've chewed even the bird buddy. They've been enlarging the arch that the seed.
That's not done by birds, that's the squirrels. So, but the bird buddy takes some pretty cool pictures. I put some jelly in there and got a picture of the oriole, and they are demons against each other.
Oh! When I watch these videos that the bird buddy takes of the birds at the feeder, I am very aware that birds are closely related to dinosaurs. I mean, they're like, what is it, the velociraptor? They're pecking,
Yeah.
they're throwing their whole body at each other. And yeah, they're vicious little creatures.
Which birds prefer platform? Nancy's asking. Cardinals, some of the grosbeaks, the mourning doves, the juncos.
Yeah, they want to be on our
And there's
flies.
others I can't think of right now, but
Well, blue jays, but those
Yeah.
guys, most people are not trying to get. That wren always looks stuck.
Carolina wren,
Always
they
looks
always
nervous.
looked angry. But anyway, so that one also goes in the front yard. And that's a close-up of the bottle feeder. It sits on it and then they pull the seed out. Takes them a little while. And that's our 40-year, only 2 squirrel types have ever gotten into it. And that's our front yard. In the backyard off of our patio, we have 3 feeders hanging currently. And there's the green one is strictly peanuts. I got it. It's a new one from Christmas. Supposed to be squirrel proof. So far it's proven because I've seen them get on it and see it shut. They can't get it and they can't climb this pole for some reason. It's too slippery or too big around. And even this one with the cage,
Twice we found a squirrel inside the cage, stuffed himself in there somehow.
I mean, they figure out a way to turn the top and then they chew on the plastic. And this is a new one we've gotten. And I told Janet we have to make sure sunflower hearts really bring a lot of birds in.
Yeah, they
And
do.
and they don't leave mess. This is by our deck. We don't need a bunch of sunflower hulls.
They do leave a mess, but
They
not
leave
as
us
much.
not as much of a mess. Every seed leaves a mess. And you could see where the squirrel, this is metal. I said, make sure to get metal around there that's well put on, not that they could pop it off, which some of the lesser types, but you can see where they've been chewing on it already.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they could eventually go through it if they got
Yeah,
frustrated.
They didn't I had a troll Yankee for almost 20 years that they've only scraped and they went about 1/8 of an inch into the aluminum. But otherwise,
The reason that we're telling you about all these feeders is because it's one of our big activities in the winter is filling them and feeding them. And Steve calls
Yeah.
it our insurance against insects because of all the birds that right now are there. If you look out there and look at the trunk of a big tree, there'll be birds creeping up and down it, nuthatches, chickadees, some of the wrens and all of the woodpeckers. And when they're bouncing up and down, they're pulling insects out from underneath the bar in a lot of cases.
this has that finch seed mix in this one, and it has smaller openings. It just doesn't get the same volume of birds that the triple feeder does. Don't know why. And then this is our suet. I always have suet out there. The squirrels really can't get over this. Look, they can to a point, but they mainly jump down
From the tree.
from the tree onto this one.
We are told by our clients who are very avid bird feeders for a long time that the torpedo
shape, it's
shape
narrower and
is much
longer.
better, and
Yeah.
they can't get past that as long as you don't have a tree for them
Yeah.
to jump down from.
The hot pepper, somebody just asked about hot pepper, and I have to say I tried it on those tubes. I painted those
shoot,
tubes
we
with hot
paint-
pepper.
yeah.
I poured pepper into the seed.
Yeah,
We did everything.
I'll tell you, it looks very
did
weird
work.
to paint pepper around there. I mean, you got the pepper
Yeah,
wet and
they hold their
paint it
nose
around.
and keep going.
Keep chewing.
And this is another new feeder that we got that squirrel proof too. The weight of the squirrel on the cage pulls it shut.
And they are not inexpensive, unfortunately.
No, they are not.
You know, we're talking over $100 for a feeder, but I got fed up with at one point while I was filling feeders in the fall. Steve was under the weather, and I was filling feeders, and they were getting chewed up so rapidly. I said, "Come on, let's just spend the money and get one feeder that they can't chew up, rather than doing this whole thing over and over and over again." So we can help you out if you're looking for an inexpensive feeder. Not if you really want to protect it from other critters.
Teresa's also, I know she asked, where'd you buy your seed? I go to Uncle Luke's in Troy, but almost any grain
Feed store,
elevator,
feed stores
feed
and
stores.
co-op,
There's
yeah.
a feed store in Highland, and
There's one in Oxford, there's one in Highland, there's one in
they
Chelsea.
carry different types of stuff.
We Steve likes the the small bird seed mix that he gets from, what's it called? The one that you get
It's
from Uncle Luke's.
Wild Finch, and it's in the purple. I didn't take pictures of any of the seed.
Okay, wild finch mix. Anyway, he
Yeah.
likes that mix. We don't like corn in our mixes because the corn seems to attract pigeons and
And
find their way
millet or
in.
Milo either.
And yeah, millet and milo seem to get thrown away more than anything else by the
The
birds.
safflower does
Oh, wait,
produce a
millet.
lot of weeds. We
Millet's
get
in your
some.
millet's in your mix.
We get a little bit
It's
of
the
millet.
milo.
It's
that-
Milo. This is just the sunflowers in the safflower. So, and that's our backyard. And I still haven't taken down a hummingbird feeder yet.
I asked him if he's just going to leave one up until it cracks apart and falls in my pond. We keep things up high so that we can see them out our office window and also
That's
on
Janet's.
the deck to make sure that they're up high enough that the squirrels can't jump from the railing of the deck right onto the top of the feeders.
Yeah.
It means that we have to we pick the feeders off and put the feeders back up again with a long pole with a hook on the end of it.
It's like having a jousting pole.
Yeah, it's an interesting arrangement.
So that's
So anybody got any bird feeding questions? Somebody was asking something by email and I've forgotten to put that one in.
no.
Oh, it was about the Bird Buddy and whether we noticed that the Bird Buddy cameras are not supposed to stay out below -5.
Oh,
So if it gets really cold.
so it hasn't gotten that cold yet.
Okay, I think it was
Anyway.
Michelle who asked about use or poisonous. This is the AMA guide, to injurious and dangerous, poisonous and injurious plants. And it lists yew, actually several kinds of yews. The English yew, the yew that grows native here, and the hybrids are all here. And the toxic part is most of the plant, including the seeds, but not the red arrow. So the red fleshy part of the seed, which most of us on the yews, is okay. It's the seed within that, just like there's a seed within a blueberry or another fruit. The symptoms: dizziness, dry mouth. Okay, somebody medical knows what mydriasis means because I don't know mydriasis. Salivation and emesis. So throwing up, right? A rash may appear. The face might become pale. The lips might become cyanotic. There's generalized weakness and the patient may become comatose. Sometimes bradycardia and other arrhythmias, hypotension, and dysphoria may be observed. Death would be due to cardiac or respiratory failure.
Okay.
Allergic anaphylacticoid, using what do they call it? An EpiPen. Management: the stomach should be evacuated and a slurry of activated charcoal administered. Monitor the heart rate. Might watch a pacemaker. So yes, yews are toxic,
Yeah.
and
Stay away.
and yet deer can process those puppies like they're candy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, we have different stomachs and different chemistry in the stomachs. Okay, we need to get back to the. Here we go. Let's do watching for thaws. Been asked again, got a couple of emails saying, so when is a good time to prune? Yeah, you're gonna watch the forecast. Working class. Oh, well. I can't read and I'm not sure why I put
Or
working class.
a working class.
Oh,
a type
working
of
class thaws, yes.
thoughts.
You want it to be dry, not raining, not snowing. And you want it to be above freezing. And you want that above freezing to last not just while you're out there pruning. It could start right when you're out there pruning, but you want it to last 24 to 48 hours
Preferably 48.
after you get done pruning for the wood to finish changing its water temperature before it gets cold enough to freeze the cells out on the edge that you just exposed. So this is not a good day to prune. And what we have had on the days when it did get warm enough to call it a thaw, we got a little bit of snow, and that little bit of snow is water on that crabapple, and it was driving me absolutely insane.
Made a big difference.
I had pruned half of the crabapple all of the way, and half of that had pruned the top as well as the underside, and was waiting for the ground to thaw so that I could chomp around in there. And now I'm looking at a tree that's driving me nuts.
'Cause
This whole side.
it's got a
Now,
lot of sprouts and a lot of,
when we moved in,
not a lot.
we took off the top of this tree branches doing that, coming from here and going up, that were this big and this big around. We
And
took a whole layer off
Yeah,
of the tree so
add
that
another layer because we couldn't see out the window.
we wanted to see out the window. We wanted to be a better in proportion to the house. So we took that off, and I have to keep those water sprouts from growing up, or I'm going to end up with the tree right back to where it was. So I looked at it and said, okay, I'm going to pick the day that I can pick. And I managed to get this half of the tree pretty
Done.
much done. I have cut out the spindly wood. I have taken the water sprouts out that are going straight up. I've taken out dead wood. And in some cases, I've just cut back the good branches that were there to shorten them and keep the tree open enough for the air to flow through it, keep it healthy. But that side of the tree, I
This
didn't get to.
right hand. Whoop.
And that's what I see every day we drive on the driveway. Look up and go, oh, the tree is getting bigger again. So I'm watching now to jump on and finish the rest of that so that this side that's done, which almost meets the orchardist definition
Yep.
that a robin with spread wings should be able to fly through your apple
Almost.
tree. This one's almost thin enough to do that. I'll be able to take this side down to it the next time that I get a thaw. And if you can see the difference, then you can see why this time of year I get kind of frustrated and put my head in closets and clean closets out. So I'll thin out the spindly wood. You can see how spindly some of those are.
Whoops.
I'll take spindly wood right out of there, and I'll take the more vigorous ones and I'll cut them back to just a couple of buds.
Yep.
And I'll take out the older, less vigorous stuff. It's kind of fun to do. Wrens are so cute. Wait, that's not a wren.
Yeah, that's Carolina wren.
Okay. Little tiny guys, great big voices. The pupils of the eye get dilated. Thank you, Barbara. So watch for, yeah, no.
Deer knock over. They will knock over feeders. They go for seed too. If you have, they will.
You might be a candidate to do a feeder the way we've done the feeders higher up. We pound an 8-inch black iron pipe into the ground for feed, and then we slide the one of the feet of a shepherd's hook into there.
Yep.
And now we've got a hook that's about 10 feet tall, and that's
it helps.
But it's not easy. The Bird Buddy's not bad to pick up and down. But those big new feeders that he's got with all the metal on them, those guys are heavy. Putting them up and down with a feeder.
That's not easy. And that's what the triple tube feeder can be.
That's why we like those so much. Can we go back to the guys? Like, I can't remember what else is there.
There. Cleaning and sharpening.
Oh, do cleaning and sharpening for sure.
20 minutes.
Most of our garden tools have cutting edges. If you cut with pruners, you recognize this. If you cut with loppers, you recognize this. But if you cut with a spade, you're cutting through grass, roots, sod, soil. If you cut with a
shovel,
a hand shovel, what those called, a trowel, you're cutting through it. Your weeders are cutting.
Yeah.
So you want to clean up your tools. And I want to tell you that we were at the library Wednesday this week doing our annual tool cleaning and sharpening. And it is always a revelation to people that you should not put away, this is mine, should not put away your shovel, first, the foreground's a shovel, the background's a spade, should not put them away with dirt on them, especially in the winter when they're going to sit there for a long time. Why does dirt stick to metal? Because it's moist. Moisture underneath soil that's drying out from the outside means there's going to be rust under there, and rust is your big enemy. It eats away the metal. It keeps you from having a good edge that cuts
smooth.
Well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were cleaning, and it took and so it's the same as cleaning your hand shears or your loppers. We use oil as a solvent. There are other metal cleaners you can use. We put a little WD-30, so 3-in-1 oil. We'll put 3-in-1 oil or WD-40 onto the blade of the pruners, and then use steel wool or a scrubby to get all of the sap that's built up on there out. Because the sap is, it's a literally measurable layer. If you can see the color of it, it's measurable, and it's what's keeping the two blades from meeting properly.
And so you get a bad cut.
Yep, so clean those up. And I cleaned up my spade. which is at
Oh.
least 25 years old, maybe older than that.
Yeah.
I cleaned it up, and it took most of the evening while I was talking with others about what they were sharpening and cleaning and how to do it, just to get the dirt and the rust off of that spade blade. And you can't really tell how much better it is. And I added linseed oil to the handle because I was complaining to Steve this year. I said, "Oh no, my old shovel, the handle's beginning to squeak." Well, Janet, the
Yeah.
handle's beginning to squeak because it's drying out and getting
And
small.
you haven't
When was the last time you
oiled it.
oiled the handle of your wooden shovel, or wooden spade? So I gave it a new edge. Most spades come without an edge. Most trowels come without an edge. You want them to work better, put an edge on them with a flat file, or I used a grinder to touch that one up. But I'm not done with it yet. There's still areas where there's some rust,
And dirt, maybe.
and rust there, and some organic debris that gets on it. Get that stuff off. If you can't do anything else, bring your favorite tools inside and ask somebody in the family who's always looking to do you a favor. Say, how could you just get those cleaned up? Even somebody who doesn't understand sharpening an edge, and be careful that you don't let somebody sharpen your edges that doesn't.
But that's no, yeah.
But even somebody who's not interested in sharpening the edge can take a scrub brush and water and make something look clean.
Yes.
And that'll make a big
And
difference.
make it clean.
Yeah. We were walking in and out of the garage filling feeders the other day, and there's an overgrown Weigelia. I've shown it to you at the corner of the garage. So,
Yep.
so you have a space about 18 inches wide between where your garage door rolls up and the outside wall. That whole area is full of this big Weigelia. We'd walked in and out a couple of times. I walked out by myself and turned toward the backyard this time instead of toward the front yard, and scared a hawk, a big guy like this, probably a red tail, out of that Weigelia. He fell out of the Weigelia, flapping his wings around. I fell backwards on my butt. They're big birds and interesting to watch.
Yep.
I still think he's the youngster.
I think so.
We had a
too.
young red tail show up.
He has no clue.
He's hunting and he's crying, calling. And we're standing on the ground looking up going, "You've got to be more quiet than that. The birds have been hidden for half an hour."
And he gets in the juniper on the lower level of the juniper.
Yeah. So he hasn't learned that if you want to hide in a place you can take off from
Yeah.
quickly without falling on the ground. I'm seeing the question about avian flu. The bird flu that's can be carried in wild bird populations. I know we were just talking at the library about the restrictions on chickens. If you're going to be keeping chickens for eggs, they have to be free range. That's part of the anti-cruelty laws that were passed recently. But how do you let them be free range and still keep out all wild birds, because wild birds can carry it, but it's not rampantly spread that way. And these are birds that have a lot of room. They're not cooped up somewhere together. So I know when it first came through, people said, "You got to take your feeders in." And then the Department of Agriculture, Michigan, came out with a statement to say, "No, you don't. This is not something we've seen any effect on the actual wild birds."
Yeah. Michelle is asking, you only sharpen one side of the shovel, right?
I only sharpen one side of, you could sharpen both sides and make a point out of the spade edge or your shovel edge, but you then lose more metal. You've got a skinnier area. So sharpening just one side is fine. I sharpen the underside. I've seen it done both ways, but I sharpen the underside because my idea is when I'm picking up soil and throwing it off the spade, the soil is scraping twice across the top and only once across the bottom. So I'm trying to keep
Plus your sharp side is on the side you're cutting.
That's right, it's at that right angle. Yeah. Okay, question was about bulbs, about amaryllis. Accidental holdover. Somebody told me just the other day that they planted some tulips that they had left, and they planted them on Thanksgiving weekend, and they think they're going to be okay. I said, well,
we'll see.
I said, I can tell you one more than that. I planted some on December 18th, and I'm sure they're going to be okay. I think some of them might not bloom, but Yeah, they've been out there for a while. So if you've got some that you held out over and they haven't frozen yet in your garage, or dried out, if they're not dried out, and you can tell a dried out bulb the same way you tell a dried out onion in your crisper drawer. But if they're still plump, they haven't frozen, you can put them in the crisper drawer and close them up in a potato sack or an apple bag and hang on to them. You can also put them into pots with soil mix and grow them inside. They probably haven't had enough cold to bloom, but it's worth a try. And you can also look up on our website if you want to how to put them in a pot
Awesome.
and then keep them cold and bring them
Yeah.
out at, let me see, 9 weeks. What's 9 weeks from now? Probably Easter. They'd probably be Easter flowers.
Yep.
But the question this week was about amaryllis. She said, I looked on your site. You have to do a two-step search for this particular guy on our site. I'll tell you about that later. He said, I couldn't find anything, and everybody's got all this conflicting information about what do I do? I'd like to keep this amaryllis. It's so beautiful. This one is Carrie Holly's. It's not the person who asked about it, but it is a beautiful one, and you can see you'd want to keep it. The only way to keep an amaryllis from year to year, use it again, is to let those leaves grow. The leaves are coming up now. They're following. So first you get the flower stalk, it blooms, and then the leaves grow. And you need to keep those leaves in enough light to grow well and healthy. This is an amaryllis that was put out into the garden to grow, because you can do that. You can put them out in the garden. You can put them out in the pot in the garden. You can take them out of the pot and put them in the ground, and grow them on. Or you can keep the pot in a nice sunny window and grow it as a pot plant. But the thing that you're trying to do with an amaryllis is let those leaves grow and be in the light for long enough to feed a new bulb, because the new bulb is forming. And that takes at least a couple of months. Debbie is taking one out that's been growing out in the garden all summer long. And now we're going to take it out to be stored. This one's going to be stored just wrapped up in crumpled up newspaper in a bag in a cool room, kind of a breezeway, they call it, in between the garage and the house, in a cool room. It could be left in a pot, so we could put it in the pot, just twist the roots around, put it in the pot, and add some sand or something just to insulate it. Or in the right conditions, if you got a root cellar, you could keep it bare. But you need to let it rest, or if you can get it to go dormant, either by denying it water, keeping it drier until the leaves begin to go brown, or maybe you shade it and it goes brown. If you can get it to go dormant by September, it gets a long enough time to rest that it will be up and blooming for you at Christmas time. If you don't get it to go down by September, it'll still go down and it'll still bloom for you, but it might not bloom until Valentine's Day, someplace later on.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of conflicting information because there's more than one way to do it, and different people have different rooms to store it in. Some people cut all the roots off of it when they're going to store it. Other people say, no, I'll just let them dry off of it, because they will dry off. Poinsettias also need a change in day, like in day length, like the kalanchoes do. But they're a little more amenable. They take it earlier in the year. But many of them have been killed, being put into people's closets and left for 3 months.
Or longer.
Yeah. Okay. We've been getting pictures from people of gardens around the country and around the world, prompted in part by last week. Our webinar was about beautiful places to visit, things you must see if you're going to go out and look at gardens. Marilyn sent these, and I'd like to show them. She went to China in 2009, I think it was, and was blown away by the gardens. I mentioned when we were talking about gardens that you must see, that I have heard from people who've been in China, especially people who really know gardens well, that because areas are so heavily populated in the cities, when there is a garden like this one, these are the imperial gardens around the Forbidden City complex, within the Forbidden City complex in Beijing, one of the places that was not ever open during the Chinese Empire, but now it is open to a certain extent. But they are so well used, so many thousands, hundreds of thousands of people come through on a regular basis, that it's difficult for them to keep smaller plants going or gardens going. So mostly you're going to find rock formations that are famous in Oriental gardens anyway, and wonderful big old trees. So you're looking at Lake Chai boulders, just like we were talking about in our webinar the other day. A lot of shrubs and trees and paved surfaces people to walk on so that there is less damage to the roots underneath. Very much like the Scholar Gardens so if you can't go all the way to China, I can seriously recommend that you go to that Snug Harbor, Staten Island Chinese Scholar Garden.
The one in Portland's
Or
not bad either.
in Portland, Oregon, one in Vancouver, you'll see, that's a different, not a Chinese garden.
Yeah,
Vancouver, Seattle, there's one in Seattle. Lots of pruning, the cloud pine pruning, where you're pruning the branches into bunches of platters. Interesting to watch them do that, and also interesting if you go in the wintertime to see how they're protecting them so that branches don't break. They'll brace them, they put holes up through the top and make what looks like a circus tent out of them, holding them up from above. It's beautiful. In fact, some of that is in one of our webinars. I'm not sure if it's one of our free webinars. Marilyn, who sent the pictures, also noticed, as we did, that the stonework is exquisite. And it won't be just one stone like this.
this might
It'll
be a
might be
lot
one of-
older too.
but there might be 100 stones of that same type, all put together by hand. It's your azaleas and rhododendrons, lace bark elms, Japanese maples, banana plants. And in Vancouver, there is a Natobi garden. Actually, it's got his first name, Anato Natobi, who's a famous resident of Vancouver, who is of Japanese descent and was very important politically in terms of relations between Canada and Japan. And this garden is dedicated to him and done very much in the traditional Japanese style. I think it's on University of British Columbia campus. But these are authentically done. Most of the time when you're seeing Japanese gardens done on a large scale or Chinese gardens done on a large scale in the United States, a designer from that country has been engaged in order to give the design and oversee putting it in. For instance, Meyer Botanical Gardens had one put in recently.
Yeah.
And the designer has been back to visit a couple of times to look at it. This looks very much like looking across the lake at the Missouri Botanic Gardens in their Japanese garden, which was visited by the Emperor of Japan and given approval. Beautiful gardens. Oh, there's his first name, Inazo Notobi was that garden that you see. And for those of you who were with us on must-see gardens,
And my goofy, organization.
No, not. I didn't make up a list of the gardens we were going to talk about, and Sonia has helped us do that. And while we were in webinar, while she was answering chat questions, while we were talking, she was making a list of a visual list of the places that we stopped and the gardens that we could go to. And then a second map that went through the ones that were more exotic, more south and west gardens.
Yep.
And those two pieces I will put in with the list of gardens, which I'm very sorry to say has not been done yet, nor has the webinar been edited and put up because I just forgot. The days
we were out of practice.
Well, I'm cleaning closets and making soup.
Yeah,
and
we have
yeah.
A list of quite a few more gardens.
Yeah, oh yeah. So let's see. I think that's all that we have for you, and we have just 2 or 3 minutes left. If there's anyone that would like to, I'm glad to hear Diane is agreeing with our friend Marvin's advice about calling the city about any tree posing a danger. Diane was part of the, Diana, I had forgotten what it was called, the advisory board for urban forestry. But she talked to a lot of people in the Toledo area about what they were doing with trees. And so she's a good one to say that there's another term for dangerous tree that's called hazardous tree. Some people don't realize that the city is responsible for the trees in that tree lawn, grass strip, devil strip, If you get the right city person on the phone, they will want to take care of it, and
Yep.
that's very true. Nobody wants to take down a big tree, not only because
No.
it's expensive, but because it makes such a big hole in things and
And
a
it
lot of
takes
follow-up.
years and years and years and years to replace a big tree.
Tree commission. She was on the tree commission. Don't you love this time of year when you can see the nests in the tree
Where they
and
were.
where they are? And some birds like to nest. I think it's chipping sparrows. Once you get about 10 feet off the ground,
No
no,
more.
they don't want to be there. And you'll get the mourning doves where they're always going to be in a crotch like that, and usually low down. It's fun watching them.
Yep.
Okay, so
Oops,
I
not
think
there.
I think we are set. Thank you, Therese, for the, I'm not sure if this is a yellow crowned night heron, certainly some kind of heron, but Therese had a yellow crowned night heron show up in her garden down in Florida on New Year's morning, which is a good sign, a good luck sign, and she shared the picture of the bird with us, which was really nice. Karen is so sad about all the trees burnt up in the California fires. Whenever there's a wildfire, all those irreplaceable plants, at least in our lifetime, they're going to be irreplaceable. Steve and I went to Mount St. Helens. I can't remember when. It had been at least 20.
Yeah, it was only about 17 to 20 years.
Yeah, after the eruption. But things were still devastated in some areas, but other things had grown. I mean,
Yep.
it isn't that we're going to lose the forest. It will be back, but we won't be there to see it.
Yes.
And you know that they'll pave the parking lot, pave it and call it a beautiful place that the more pavement that goes up, the less chance it has to get back again.
Oh,
Uh-oh, we don't know how to get to our farewell slide.
yes.
There we go.
There.
Thank you, Stephen. So that's it for this
For this
Free-for-All
for
Friday.
Thank you all for being there.
We'll be back next week. That's the 17th for another Free-for-All Friday. Any questions that you've got, any comments about how this works for you, or doesn't work for you, or
It will
could be
be very,
improved?
very helpful to
Yeah,
us.
very helpful to us. Just send them by email.